Carter suffers injuries while in foster care that ultimately led to his death, and now we're trying to help the family find answers as to how this happened. Good evening. I'm Kim Chapman.
And I'm Josh Rowe. This week, Chattanooga police announced the death of Vincent Carter, who was just 23 months old. Today, we obtained a medical examiner's report that confirmed he was seriously injured while in state custody.
Now police say the woman they believe is responsible committed suicide before they could make an arrest. Sabrina Majore shows us what the family knows about this case and what questions still aren't being answered. Sabrina.
Josh and Kim, the family says they still have numerous unanswered questions, but Vincent's grandmother says the biggest question for her is now one she'll never get to learn the answer to.
He wasn't even 2 yet. What could a 1-year-old do to make you hurt them like that?
Multiple blunt force injuries to the head and neck. It's what a medical examiner said led them to rule 2-year-old Vincent Carter's death a homicide.
When my grandson got to the emergency room, there was no brain activity. There was no blood flow going to the brain.
Janie Carter says she didn't know what to believe in her son's final moments.
Then I was getting different stories of him eating grease and becoming unconscious.
This affidavit from January shows that after a domestic dispute between Arian and her children's father, Vincent and his 2 siblings were placed into state custody. Since January, they lived here under the care of Deborah Barnes.
It happened to my grandson, and then she committed suicide, so she had to be mentally unstable.
A CPD arrest warrant says Barnes told police Vincent was eating and choking on a hair product when she realized he was unresponsive. That arrest report shows ICU doctors never found evidence of this. Instead, doctors told police the 2-year-old had extreme swelling and bleeding in his brain.
I just want justice for my baby because he did not deserve it.
Police said Barnes' statements were misleading. They charged Barnes with criminal homicide, child abuse, and neglect. But before an arrest was made,
Place Boulevard. It's going to be at the lower parking lot by dealers at the mall. Security out with a party in a silver Ford Flex appears unconscious.
Barnes died of a gunshot wound in an apparent suicide. Now his grandmother says she'll never learn the reason why this happened.
I hate that this happened.
Now, the state confirmed to us that Barnes was a foster parent through OmniVision. We have statements from both OmniVision and the state on our website. And now we still have a number of questions we're looking to get answers for. We're still looking into whether there were any complaints about Vincent's treatment during his time in foster care. We're also working to learn what training his foster mother had through the state and what can be done to protect children like Vincent in the future.
For years, naloxone has been used to stop fatal overdoses. Earlier this year, manufacturing issues prevented the distribution of the medicine, and with the recent shortage, the country could see more fatal overdoses.
I always describe her as a feisty red.
It's been nearly 7 years, and Kimberly Ladis can still recall every detail of the night her mother overdosed.
I go back in and she's still just laying kind of weird.
A constant issue, drug overdoses in Tennessee have been skyrocketing, and a useful drug is running low.
We've seen a significant increase in naloxone use.
Naloxone, also known as Narcan, is a treatment for overdoses. And while Tennessee's stock is currently strong, the FDA announced a nationwide shortage.
It's carried on all of our ambulances, and it unfortunately gets used on a daily basis with us.
Brian Bricker, a Georgia paramedic, says Narcan use is constant. And according to the Tennessee Department of Health, fatal overdoses have jumped 50% since 2015.
I have a better understanding of what it means to save someone's life.
Tennessee health groups are focused on training people to recognize overdoses and are using a different method to administer the life-saving drug.
Intranasal is a lot easier to use, really simple to use, and we provide a training on how to recognize an overdose, when to use naloxone, and then how to respond.
Despite the recent supply issues, companies are still working hard to make Narcan available to hopefully prevent these tragedies.
She's the first person I want to call. Anything good that happens, anything bad that happens. And so, I've come to terms with it, but at the same time, it's still hard.
Now, according to state health officials, most Tennessee and Georgia stockpiles remain strong, but several smaller health groups are feeling the effects of the shortage, and only time will tell when the issue will be resolved.
after the county and developer have fixed multiple issues on this specific section of Snow Hill Road. We found through a public records request that the crash rate is dangerously high. Now, residents want the county to come up with a plan to make this road safer. We started digging through documents on Snow Hill Road when the developer of this new subdivision added a turn lane that residents called dangerous. Months later, the county just fixed the turn lane that had drivers veering to one side. But Ooltewah resident Darren Lewis says that's only one part of the problem.
But with more development out here, I've just noticed there's a much higher crash rate.
Through our new public records request, we found this document by the Strategic Transportation Investments Director that shows the crash rate for the whole road is 3 times higher than the statewide average.
I think long term, I really think the road is going to need to be widened.
This document even shows the road qualifies for Highway Safety Improvement Grant.
I consider it increased danger. I'm not sure what the county, I cannot speak for the whole county. I can only speak for myself on this.
Commissioner Highlander represents this area and says he's been working on improving safety on the road for the last 3 months.
I've been asking for every possible road improvement to take place, and the wheels seem to turn slowly sometimes, but I'm glad that we're getting some improvement. We need more.
We asked Mayor Jim Coppinger if the county has any future plans to improve safety on the road.
We just had recently looked at by TDOT from Tennessee Department of Transportation in conjunction with our people to see if there were any things that we needed to, any immediate things, and there's not right now.
At the moment, the mayor and Highlander say there is no solidified plans for safety in the works and say all drivers can do right now is slow down.
But at the end of the day, what we find, if you follow the speed limits and you obey the traffic laws, then these roads are safe to travel at those speeds.